Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a white wine from Sicily, from the Fiano grape variety. This is Planeta's Cometa. It's from the Menfi DOC and it's from the 2022 vintage. Now Planeta are quite a large producer, aiming to turn out quality wines, but both from IGTs and from DOCs throughout Italy. In fact, they have 6 estates. So as well as the estates they have at Menfi in the west of the island, they also have estates at Etna and Noto in the east of the island, at Mamertino di Milazzo in the northeast, and at Vittoria in the south. This particular wine, as I say, comes from Menfi, which is where they have their headquarters and where the family have their house. Planeto was founded in 1995 by Alessio and Santi Planeta, along with their uncle Diego, and Diego had been an owner of the Settesoli cooperative. This particular wine comes from 2 different estates around Menfi. There's the Dispesa vineyard, which is at about 75 metres above sea level, and then there's the Gura vineyard, which is about 35 metres above sea level, so both relatively low level vineyards. Both of them share chalky soil types, and the wine is made at the family's Ulma winery. 2020 was a pleasing vintage for the Planeto family. They were 12% down on yields, but quality was really very good. The season began with heavy rain in November and December, leaving the soils wet and cold, and actually meaning that the wine cycle started a little bit late because of the cold soils. However, the late winter saw very little rain. There were further downfalls in May, whose rainfall was above average. However, in June and July there were heat spikes. It was dry and there were extreme temperatures, and in general that shaped the final vintage because there was very little fungal disease pressure. Conditions were almost perfect for ripening in August, and there was some rain in September. As the Fiano was picked between the 3rd and the 9th of September, it was largely unaffected by that. Planeta manage their vineyards sustainably, and they have organic certification. And what this means is that there's a lot of cover crops being grown. So, for instance, you get vetch, beans and wildflowers growing in between the rows, and particularly the beans and the vetch give nitrogen that can be ploughed back into the soil. As far as treatments are concerned, both wetted sulphur and copper sulphate can be used on the vines under the organic regime. They do use soil additives such as kaolin, zeolite and various vegetable extracts. For control of pests, they use hormones to induce sexual confusion and to prevent the pests from reproducing in the vineyards. When it came to picking, the fruit was picked by hand. It was entirely placed into 15 kilogram cagettes, so shallow bins to prevent the fruit being crushed at all on its way to the winery. On arrival at the winery, the fruit was chilled, was then crushed, gently pressed and left to settle. This went on at temperatures between 6 and 7 degrees C. The clean juice was then racked off the solids that had fallen out of them, and fermentation went on predominantly in stainless steel tanks, with just 10% being put aside to ferment in large 36 hectolitre oak casks and some in tonneau, which are other large barrels. Fermentation went on relatively cool at 14 to 15 degrees C, so with the idea of trying to preserve as many of the aromatics as possible to stop them from being sort of boiled away during the fermentation. And the fermentation lasted between 12 and 14 days. After fermentation, all the wine was put back into tank, and there it aged until February, with the heavy lees remaining off to ferment. And these were being stirred up regularly to ensure they were kept in suspension to help give richness to the wine. In February, a racking occurred and the wine was taken off its heavy lees, but continued aging with fine lees until April, with these fine lees still being stirred up weekly to try and give the wine as much richness and rounded texture as possible. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we, and see what we make of it. First thing I have to say about it is that's a nice, vivid, medium yellow colour. And swirling it, the wine has 13% alcohol, not particularly high, but it's forming tears on the glass quite readily. So let's see what we make of the aroma, shall we? The aromas have a richness. There's a white peach sort of fruit note. There are also some herbal notes, actually, and there's quite a vivid touch of anise. There's perhaps a citric lemony note. And there's creamy notes from the leaves. There's plenty going on in there. There are some lifted, more high-toned notes of blossom as well. So let's have a taste, shall we? The wine is dry. It's a medium weight. It has a creaminess. Now sometimes I find Fiano can have quite a sort of a green, sappy note at the beginning of the palate. There is a tiny touch of slightly bitter green tartness, but not a lot, to be honest. The acidity is quite nicely rounded. The alcohol is rounding out the back palate, and clearly the lees notes are filling the wine out quite nicely. It's good and medium bodied. As I say, it has a rounded texture. The acidity is balanced. It's not showing particular sharpness, although it does follow through, and there is a sort of a lemoniness at the finish, coming after a rounder, more creamy, slightly oily, peachy note on the mid palate. There are also perhaps toasty notes. I don't think that's coming from oak, that may be a fermentation aroma, and that's also leaving, along with the lemoniness that I've already noted, there's a sort of a mineral, whetstone note on the finish there. So plenty going on. A dry wine with some nice richness, not too sharp. The winemakers suggest you could age this for 15 years. I'm not sure that I would leave it for that long, but certainly over 3 or 4 years I think it would develop quite nicely. But at the same time, I think that's ready to drink now. I think that's very attractive. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, do please like and share. Please consider signing up and following us on YouTube. It would be fantastic to have your support. And if you have any comments, please leave them in the box below. We'd love to get your feedback on the wines we're looking at, the tastings, or anything else related to that. Most importantly though, please do make some time. Come and join us for another tasting in the very near future, won't you? Bye for now.